Since the early days, this land has been cared for. The values of Tennessee's rugged, resourceful forefathers have survived, along with the music. Those frontier families who settled Tennessee were a strong and independent breed. They believed in the gun, the Bible, and themselves. That's about all they had, except for the common desire for land. Well, the land was there all right, but the isolation was awesome. They had to use their hands and their wits to tame the territory. And there's plenty of that self-reliance still alive and kicking here in Tennessee. You'll see it next on Portrait of America. In 1796, the state of Tennessee was created out of the wilderness of the Southwest Territory. It would eventually be surrounded by 8 other states. Tennessee is long and narrow. The state divides itself into 3 natural regions. The mountainous terrain of the Smokies in the east, the Cumberland Plateau of the midsection, and in the west, the lowlands along the Mississippi River. The whole westward movement of America from the south came right through here. The Cumberland Gap. The Indians first learned about this pass through the mountains by following the buffalo. Landscape remains unchanged. It still seems wilderness, rich with possibilities. Daniel Boone led a party of axemen here in 1775 and blazed this trail, the Wilderness Road. And other pioneers have pushed even further out into the American West. The families who first settled in the southern Appalachian region of eastern Tennessee struggled for survival in the isolated hollows between the hills. Armed with their resourcefulness and little else, they carved out a place for themselves with their wits and the bounty of the woods. It hasn't changed much.
There wasn't hardly any houses down through here now, when I first remember. Now then, it's a pretty good sized town all down through here.
There was 26 of us kids, 2 mothers, and we all had to work hard back then to live. It was kind of rough, but we made it anyhow.
Luther is the 5th generation that has lived here. His great-great-grandfather came over from Germany.
Never did think anything about leaving. It made my living here. I've just got to piddle around here the rest of my days.
The story, the spirit, the rich mountain culture of the Appalachian region lives in its people. It's preserved, passed down at this 75-acre museum of Appalachia, created by one man, John Rice Irwin. His ties to this region go back 200 years, to when his family first settled here.
I spent a good deal of my time with my 4 grandparents, who were actually grandsons and granddaughters of the pioneer era, and I spent a lot of time with a lot of the other older people in the community. So I wanted something to remember them by, and I had no idea, of course, of starting a museum. My family came in here in 1784 and settled in this same valley, and they lived there until 1934 when the United States government bought the area for the inundation for a lake when the first TVA dam was built.
That first dam was the Norris Dam. Before the Tennessee Valley Authority, most people in the Appalachian region lived in poverty and isolation. Now there was electricity, flood control, paved roads. There was progress. The TVA was the beginning of the end of isolation. But pioneer ways of making and fixing things continued. These mountain people knew how to get things done. They had to.
I think anywhere in America you had some great people coming in. They all went through a period where they had to be self-sufficient. They had to make their own clothing, their own shoes. They had to be their own blacksmith and make their own wagons, and everything that had to be done, they had to do it themselves. They couldn't go to the store or the supermarket and buy it. In Appalachia, it was a little more that way because you had people who were more isolated, so you could not have the specialization that you had in some other sections of the country.
John's grandfather started him off with a couple of items. Today, there are 200,000.
The thing that I like to do here at the museum is have items that tell a story, and as I say, it means a lot more, I think, if you do know the history of these items. This little gadget here on the floor is a baby rocker. Came from blind Maggie Gray, who's up in Big Valley, and she could sit here and rock the cradle and peel apples or break beans or quilt or whatever she wanted to do. And quite an interesting little gadget, and for years nobody could figure out what it was because it is quite unusual. This, I guess, maybe indicates that the ingenuity and the make-do has not all disappeared from the mountains, because my old friend Dow Pugh from down at Monterey, Tennessee, made this about 20 years ago, and he saw this ham can and $2.98 on it, and he puts a neck on it and had a real nice playing a banjo.
Music became a second language in Tennessee. In this place of isolation, music meant community. It gave a unique culture, a common voice.
My parents were very good parents and so forth, but they didn't think I should spend all my time sitting around playing the banjo and the mandolin and the fiddle when there was corn to be chopped and hay to be hauled and things of this sort. So I would sort of have to sneak around on Sunday afternoon when we didn't work, you know, or after the work was done to play.
John Irwin still plays.
In all in town in Tennessee, above the mountainside, a very pretty girl, so pleasing to the eye. She skipped around the mountains, no day to hear her cry.
I feel a lot of pride in being from the Appalachian region and from the state of Tennessee. There's so many people that Tennessee has produced that were what I think great people. People that I would consider to be great, you never heard of because they lived on a little one-horse farm and spent their life there. I feel sort of an obligation to try to tell their grandsons and their great-grandsons and so forth how it was, and if they see some of the things, the pair of shoes that Uncle Camel wore for 24 years and how he patched them and so forth, they might get a little bit of appreciation of him and the contributions that he made.
People from southern Appalachia are still united by strong family bonds and ties to their land. The ingenuity and pride personified in this mountain culture remains characteristic of Tennesseans. 4th of July in Jonesboro, Tennessee's first settled town. Down this main street have walked Tennessee's 3 presidents, Andrew Jackson, Andrew Johnson, and James K. Polk. As a young lawyer, Jackson tried his first cases here before becoming the first president from west of the Appalachians. It was a time when local frontiersmen still came to town to pay their taxes in beaver pelts. In 1800, over 100 homes lined this main street. Tennessee was being rapidly settled. Towns like Jonesboro were leading the way. Stagecoaches regularly stopped here on the way west to Nashville. Then trains replaced stagecoaches. Towns like Jonesboro became whistle stops, lost among cities like Knoxville and Nashville, Chattanooga and Memphis. Main Street remains the heart of small-town Tennessee. Until the 1950s, the state stayed mostly rural. 95,000 farms still spread across Tennessee. The ways of the land remain highly valued, especially for families in Middle Tennessee, families like Sam McDonald's.
Riddleton, our home address here just is very small. In this community, we have good neighbors. All neighbors know one another. We work together. If we get in trouble with our work, we can call in neighbors. They'll come in and help. But it's just a friendly, wholesome, good place to live. I'm 45 years old, and I've been at it all my life. When my father and grandfather were here, I followed them, and then when my grandfather quit farming or retired, it was me and my father. This farm has been in my family for 57 or 58 years. It's special to me because I've been here all my life.
Sam's wife, Linda, lends a hand whenever she can. When Sam first farmed with his father, there were 400 acres. It's grown to 1,000 acres, and Sam now shares his legacy 50-50 with his son, George. George and his wife, Carol, have known each other since they were kids. Their first date was at a livestock show. The family farm is their life.
If I was just here working for hourly income, it'd be just like any other job to me. You know, you'd go work what you're supposed to, and you'd go home at night and forget about it. Whenever Carol and I go home at night, a lot of times I wish I could forget about it, but I carry the happiness home with us, and also the worries and the problems go home at night also with us. But then again, you know, we have those times that we kind of lay everything aside and enjoy life.
George uses 10 acres of the land to test soybeans and corn hybrids. The information helps him decide what to plant for better yields. Information he'll share with his neighbors. He shares his life with Carol.
like working close with George every day. It's not like we have to say bye at 7:30 in the morning. Don't see him till 5:30 at night or whatever. I feel like I'm helping him and benefiting farm as well.
Whatever that I seem to be doing, she's happy to try and help me out for us both to be successful at what we're doing. I just said something to her about driving the combine. Yeah, no, you know.
I was scared, but you know, you get used to it and you get over it.
She started driving. She said, well, it's a lot like sewing. You just keep the same distance between the stitches. On sewing, on planting, you just keep the same distance between the rows whenever you're planting. And most of the time, she does a big part of the planting now.
The McDonald's corn is stripped from the cob and stored and dried in nearby silos until it's ready to be processed and sold for livestock feed. The tradition of families working the land together dates back to Tennessee's beginnings. There's another tradition in Tennessee, homegrown music. It's renewed and celebrated non-stop every July at the Smithville Jamboree. Folks come to show off a little, to practice, and to exchange their music.
Diane, this is an old fiddle tune that I want you to learn to play. It's called You Ever See the Devil, Uncle Joe? And it's an old traditional tune, been played ever since I was your age. I learned it from an old fiddle player when I was your age. And I want you to listen to me play it. I want you to learn to play it, and I want to hear you play it.
Fraser Moss is one of Tennessee's finest fiddlers. Like most musicians here, Fraser first heard a relative play and then picked up a fiddle and taught himself. That keeps happening in Tennessee.
Have you ever heard that tune before? You haven't ever heard it. Let me see you try to play that. Do the best you can on it. That's fine, Diane. You're doing a fine job. Just think about it. That's the first time she ever heard it. She just done a very, very, very good job. I'm proud of this girl.
With traditional music comes traditional dancing. At Smithville, they show off two of Tennessee's oldest forms, buck dancing and the showier clogging. It's all in the footwork, with a couple of basic steps like the flat foot and cutting the grass. There are countless combinations of rhythmic tappings. There's dancing, music, and fine things made by hand. The Jamboree, a celebration of Tennessee's homemade heritage. The challenge for the people of Tennessee is no longer taming a wilderness, but moving into the future without losing those values and traditions they fought so hard for in the past. Family, a bountiful land, their culture. Have you seen Nashville lately? Nashville, rising up from the banks of the Cumberland River, is Tennessee's capital city. Country music is big business here, but so are banking, insurance, publishing, and printing. One of Nashville's many nicknames is the Wall Street of the South. This city of 700 churches is no less proud to be known as the buckle on the Bible Belt. Methodist and Baptist church leaders of the 19th century found Nashville an ideal location from which to distribute religious literature to the expanding frontier. Nashville became the religious printing and publishing capital of the world. But in most people's minds, Nashville is where you go to make it in country music. It started in 1925 when a local radio show began featuring unknown performers with a country sound. Today, Nashville is home to musicians and songwriters, publishers and producers. You go past the Country Music Hall of Fame on Music Row to get to the record companies, recording studios, and offices of Nashville's music makers. They cluster modestly along these quiet streets. Nashville sends the world the sounds of gospel, pop, rock, even classical music. Stars of the future walk these streets with homemade recordings in their hands, hoping to be discovered. A mother and daughter duo came to Nashville with that dream and a little country smarts, and it all came true for Naomi and Winona Judd.
Okay, I'll tell you, that's gonna work fine. Super. The key sounds great. And you know what, Naomi? Maybe you can come in on the second verse, like whenever it feels right, and do some really good harmony.
I hear it on the. I think he hung the moon and stars. I think he's a living dream. That would just really work.
Be great.
Fit. And then she could even.
I knew I was addicted to music. I knew that I loved it, and every time I heard a new song, it excited me. I think it wasn't until I was in 10th grade of high school. I performed in front of my school at the talent show, and I won it. I got really excited. So it wasn't until then that I decided I really wanted to start doing it, and she wouldn't let me. I was having a dream maybe to put together a band, you know, and do some things, but she wanted me to be basically a normal teenager, which I was very close to.
Is there such a thing?
After I graduated in '82, we started going for it.
During the last 5 years, I supported the 2 kids and myself making a living as a registered nurse. In the Williamson County Hospital down where we lived, I was taking care of a young girl whose father was one of Nashville's top producers, Brent Mayer.
I'll tell you what, let's work on that Kenny Odell song first. Mama,
I became satisfied that he was the man.
It's a real personal song. I like it.
So on my day off from the hospital, I put my best dress on and went in and took him a tape.
We gave him this homemade tape that we made, Kmart special.
It'd be great. I think it's a great song. You know, the one thing I'd like to try is have the verse going with that finger rolling pattern, but put a nice pause before that chorus hits, like a break. Yeah. And then go, Mama, he's crazy. And we can kind of really punch that.
That's real commitment.
Yeah.
Being 20 years old, there are a lot of country songs out there that I can't identify with.
Yeah.
Mama, he's crazy is written for us.
I'll tell you what, I think I'll go inside.
It's something that I find myself at one point in my life going to Mom and saying, Mom, I've fallen in love.
He thinks I hung the moon and stars. Well, I think he's a living dream. Well, there are men, but ones like him are few and far between. Mama, he's crazy, crazy over me. And in my life is where he says he always wants to be. I've never been so loved.
The essence of the Judd's music is from the traditional sounds of the mountains, pure voices, singing in harmony.
He's crazy over me. Oh, and Mama, he's crazy. He's crazy over me.
Western Tennessee, the soul of this area flows with the Mississippi. River channels echo with the music of the blues. Life seems to move to the pace of the river. Reelfoot Lake, a wonder of the Tennessee West. In 1811 and 1812, great earthquakes caused the Mississippi to rise up and flood a giant cypress forest. Those are the tops of those cypress trees. They still dot this remarkable lake. Davy Crockett fished and hunted here. It's still bountiful. Arrowhead Lodge provides a good living for Al Hamilton, a commercial hunter, fisherman, and guide.
Good morning. How y'all doing this morning?
Fine and dandy. And yourself?
All doing fine. Y'all ready to go fishing?
We're gonna give her a good shot.
Well, let me get y'all fixed up with some bait. Y'all want some minnows and crickets this morning?
Al has earned a reputation as an ardent conservationist.
What's biting good? Everything?
He formed the Reelfoot Lake Development Council to lobby the state government for help.
Red worms for your...
Scientific studies confirmed what Al had seen for years. The lake was shrinking, dying. Wildlife was endangered, and so was the community's livelihood, and with it, its way of life.
Little hole. And he'll crawl out. See there? He crawled out right there. Dad, you hear that one jump back over there?
Yeah.
You reckon you can catch him here in a minute?
I'll try.
Well, I hope you do. I'd like to see you take in a 5 or 6 pound big old bass this morning. Dad, pull your bait a little bit quicker next time and see if that won't make them hit a little bit better. I think you're pulling it just a little bit slow. Dad, you had any strikes?
Not yet.
When you gonna catch one, Chad?
Trying to catch one right now. When you gonna catch one?
Look here, Chad, I got a good one there. Look at it.
That's a nice size one right there.
Boy, look at there. Look at there. Put him on the supper table tonight.
I'll be the one eating them.
Huh? You gotta catch your own. You better get busy.
Reelfoot Lake once covered an area of 45,000 acres. Today, barely 13,000 remain. Lake's problems are many. soil erosion, too much plant growth, and pollution from nearby farms.
We just got mad, the local people did. We got mad because we didn't feel like Reelfoot was getting the attention from the government agencies, their federal and state. We got mad after we got to asking questions, come to find out nobody knew what each other was doing.
Al's efforts have made a difference. The state is now aware of Reelfoot's problems and is sending help.
From the standpoint of man, he's going to have to decide what is going to have to be done to correct some of the problems that we have created. I feel like it deserves a better treatment and deserves to be preserved.
A couple of hours down the Mississippi lies Henning, Tennessee, a quiet rural town just off the main road. Outward appearances haven't changed much over the years. The population's always been around 500. Alex Haley, the author of the best-selling book, Roots, spent many summers here with his family. Alex still returns.
Yeah, that's why the local bootleggers would hide their whiskey and stuff in the weeds.
Right.
Yeah, they were opening that.
Yeah. I remember there was an old man, I don't know his name, I doubt if either of you do, but on Saturday mornings like now, an old man would come every morning and sit on an upturned Coke bottle, a Coke carton, wooden carton, right about there, and he would just sit and bend over like that, and a little crowd would start gathering, and he would stay there, and the crowd would get a little bit bigger, and around about maybe 10:30 in the morning, his hand would go out for the first time, and he caught a fly.
That's Man Braid.
Was that Man Braid?
Yeah.
And it was fantastic reflexes. And he would every Saturday get crowds to watch him snatch a fly.
Haley has been writing a memoir about Henning. For him, it's a place of enduring memories.
These train tracks, nothing about this town, Henning, Tennessee, is more integral to its history, to my image of it, my memory of it, because these tracks were the link with the outside world, and this was the Hawk method of traveling right here. And we would watch little boys, little girls would have to stand over there on the side by the fence, but little boys could come right up near the tracks, and then when the trains would leave, we would all run up and get right behind it, safely behind it, and we would run in the center of the track, like here, for maybe half a mile, as the train chuff, 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 picked up speed and went on its way to Memphis or back this way to New Orleans or to Chicago. And we would, as we ran, dream that one day we would grow up and be able to get enough money to buy us a ticket to go north and do good.
Passenger trains no longer stop in Henning, and the depot has long since been torn down. Cars and planes now connect Henning to the rest of the world.
The two words, home and Tennessee, hyphenate for me. I really travel the world now, pretty much. I've been so blessed to do that. But nowhere, I don't care where I am I ever very far from Henning, Tennessee.
I went to the station to get me a train. Gonna climb aboard and ride again. Just climb aboard and ride around. I might get off at Memphis town, Memphis town.
Trains and river boats began carrying passengers to Memphis in the early 1800s. The city gained a reputation for being a river port and trade center for cotton, hardwoods, and mules. A crossroads to the south, a melting pot of people which made Memphis unique. The decline of river travel and the decline of the cotton market brought Memphis down. By the mid-1950s, the city experienced the decay felt by many urban areas, racial tensions, a surge of crime and corruption, and deterioration of the downtown area. But Memphis is fighting back. The downtown is being rebuilt and renovated, emphasizing this city's musical and river heritage. The historic Peabody Hotel led the way when it reopened in 1981. Once again, the world-famous Peabody promenading ducks take the elevator down to strut their stuff across the main lobby. Mud Island. Some might say that only a people still close to the land would give that name to a new $63 million park and entertainment complex. The home of the blues has had a facelift.
Mama make a lula, hey, what's up?
World-famous Beale Street holds a special place in American history. In the 1910s and 20s, the musical sounds of the blues brought lasting fame to Memphis.
Mama, mama, look at sis. Yeah, mama. Mama.
But Beale Street's glory faded right along with downtown Memphis. By the 1970s, Beale Street was silent. Revitalization efforts here are bringing back the music and the good times. The signs of success are showing. And under the glow of neon, downtown Memphis is on the move again. Much of Tennessee still appears rural. Among these hills, an industrial facility would be seen as out of place, if it were seen at all. Maybe that's why, in 1942, the United States government built a now famous secret city here at Oak Ridge. Scientists and technicians came to live and work under tight security on a top-secret government project codenamed the Manhattan Project. Only a few people knew the true nature of the work that was being done. In these laboratories, they developed the uranium and plutonium for the first atomic bomb. The hills of the Black Oak Ridge soon became known to the world as a frontier for nuclear science. 130 miles west of Oak Ridge, the small town of Smyrna exemplifies Tennessee's emergence in international business. Japan's Nissan Corporation moved in here and built one of the world's most advanced automotive plants. For people like Gary Montgomery, born and raised in Smyrna, the new plant meant having your cake and eating it too.
I always wanted to work in an automotive plant because of the pay, also because of the benefits. And I'd see it on TV and I'd say, hey, that's really neat. I'd like to work there. But I wasn't willing to move. I wanted to stay in the community that I grew up in. And when Nissan came in, I was excited about that fact of the opportunity that was there and to stay in my own hometown.
Even though Tennessee was trying to bring in new investments and new industries, not everyone in Smyrna thought having an automobile plant as a neighbor was such a great idea for a small town.
You had people that were a little bit negative, not knowing what to expect. They knew that the growth that was going to take place, they wondered whether the advantages would outweigh the disadvantages. There were comments made such as, hey, Smyrna may come a little Detroit or a little Tokyo.
The protest faded when 100,000 people applied for the first jobs. Many were from the north, including Detroit. 1,900 employees were soon building compact sport trucks here, complemented by 230 mechanical workers, robots. The machines and the men and the women together were soon turning out 10,000 trucks each month.
Is everything going okay with this clip, Ron? No problem right here. This strap seems to be holding better today. What about the hose? Are you having to tap very many of those? One or two today. Okay. We'll see if we can get that.
As a lead technician, what I'm supposed to do is, number one, is make sure that the line runs at all times. And I'm supposed to be there in case the other technicians may have a problem, to correct that problem without shutting the line off if possible. Also, I'm supposed to aid in the fact of putting out parts. I'm supposed to be there to listen to the employees if they want to talk to someone, if they have a problem. If they got a suggestion, always be there to listen, to try to make this place a happy place to work.
Tennesseans developed a tradition of ingenuity and craftsmanship for making things to meet their own needs. The tradition works just as well, meeting the needs of others.
The native Tennesseans have had a lot of pride within themselves. And when they brought this company to the South, a lot of people said it couldn't be done. And even the Japanese themselves said, hey, Americans can't work, like the Japanese. And we were bound and determined to prove to the whole world that we could build the best trucks sold in North America, that we could even build a better truck than what they're building in Japan. All the reports prove that to be a fact, and the Tennesseans have added a great deal to it.
Tennessee. The beauty of this land is at every turn. Tennesseans never kept that a state secret. They welcome 23 million visitors each year, many of them at America's most popular park, the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. The Cherokees first settled this land. They called it the land of 1,000 smokes. There's an almost constant bluish haze lingering just above the mountain peaks. In 1926, these lands were all privately owned, closed to the public. Then the people of Tennessee, with their own dimes and dollars, joined with others, bought this land and gave it to us, to the National Park System. Just as the first settlers did, we can still catch a glimpse of a black bear. See 200,000 acres of unfenced land. We can admire the original natural beauty of a 20th century wilderness. Know what it must have been like to come here, to be the first, with only your own resourcefulness and the bounty of the woods to rely on. Those first settlers to Tennessee were called by the far blue mountains. The call is still there, and so are the values and traditions of these fine people. Something to be mighty proud of. I'm Hal Holbrook. Join us again for Portrait of America.